This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome into another edition of Driving Solutions right here at the CBT Automotive Network. What started as a buzzword is now becoming a game changer for dealerships, customer data platforms, or CDPs. Joining us to share their insights and expertise are two experts from Cox Automotive, Jade Terreberry, Senior Director of Strategic Development at AutoTrader, and Kelley Blue Book, and Susan Blue, who is new to CBT News. She's the Vice President of Operations for Dealer Sales and Solutions at Cox Automotive. So ladies, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule there at Cox Automotive to join me here on the show. And I would like to start with you, if I can, Jade. We've heard so much about CDP in the automotive space. It seems to be, something everybody's talking about at the last couple of NADA conferences. Everyone's CDP. So it's officially more than a buzzword now, as you know. Can you describe how it's impacting the customer experience and why it is such a hot topic?
Yes, well, what I love the most about the CDP topic is for years, we've said, we've built Cox Automotive as a multi-billion-dollar CDP.
Yeah.
You and I have talked a lot of times before how long it took us to get to one view of the customer, one view of the vehicle, one view of the dealer, and one view of the market. And now everybody understands what that means.
Yeah.
It's that real-time data that creates the most relevant connections with your consumers and makes every dollar go further. In fact, I was over the last couple of weeks at the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference and the SO2 Conference.
Yeah.
And it's not just a buzzword anymore that dealers don't understand. It is real, and everyone is starting to think about this, much like we talked about with digital retailing tools. The first few years, it was a differentiator if you had it.
Yeah.
And CDPs, or being able to activate on real-time data, is getting to the point now where if you're not doing that, if you're not partnered with the right partners that have this real-time engine powering their solutions, you're wasting a lot of money and a lot of time. And so Susan's going to talk more to us today about that.
What's your take on that, Susan?
Jade is exactly right. It's no longer just good enough to collect leads and use a standard lead follow-up question. It's about using high-quality data to deliver really personalized experiences for your customers at every step along their car buying journey. At Cox Automotive, we've long used our data, like Jade mentioned, to use connected, personalized, and data-driven insights to help our dealers really deliver for their consumers and really build that long-term consumer value.
Yeah, for sure. What is Cox Automotive's approach, Susan, to CDPs?
With Cox Automotive, you get all of the benefits of a CDP natively throughout the solutions that you're already using today. So I'm going to tell you kind of how we do that and then what the benefits are for our dealers. So first, we collect all of the customer data across all of our solutions and put them into a single unified profile. Next, we enrich that profile with some of the behavioral data that we get on Kelley Blue Book, AutoTrader, and Dealer.com. And next, we kind of activate that data and embed that into the solutions you're already using, like VIN CRM, or our marketing platform, our service solution, even our deal products, so that in real time, you can use these customer insights in the tools that you're already using today to connect with your customer. And finally, we activate all of these insights across sales, marketing, and service with AI and automation to deliver that personalized experience for that consumer. So that's kind of how we do it. But you haven't heard the best part yet. The best part is that this is already included in the solutions that you buy with us today. You don't need to buy something else. You don't have to have your dealership log in, train, or learn anything. It's already included and embedded in the solutions that you already know how to use.
That's fantastic. Jay, do you want to add to that at all? Or?
Yeah, I just want to add real time. Susan said the word real time. And, it's one of the challenges that a lot of our dealers have seen as they have started to stand up either independent CDPs or thinking about how to partner with the right folks. But it's just like a CRM. It's kind of garbage in, garbage out.
Sure.
You're only as good as the data that you have. And so, one of the big differentiators on the Cox side is, we spent all of these years consumers, taking these unified consumer profiles as the building blocks. But then when you think about that, AI and automation on top of it, however, AI and automation learn from models by testing and testing. And so with what Cox has built, we apply this kind of human in the loop component, which is giving you the best of both worlds. You've got the human piece on your advertising. You have the ability for your sales team members, your BDC teams to interact out of your CRM, out of Vin Solutions. We have a lot of clients that are just amazed by our Vin Predictive Insights product, which gives them the ability to interact with the consumer via email or via text. But they are involved. However, they have all of the layers of AI right there on top of it that make every one of those communications to the consumer more relevant and smarter to move them one step further in the purchase journey or the ownership journey.
Yeah, for sure. One of the big misconceptions is that you have to build or buy a standalone CDP, as you know, that's been the discussion out there, for your dealership. Can you explain the difference between a native CDP capabilities and a standalone CDP, as well as share some of the pros and cons of each?
Sure. So as with everything automotive, there is no one-size-fits-all solutions. There are plenty of organizations and groups out there that have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest not only on the front end for a standalone CDP, and we are looking every day at new and different ways to partner and to provide rich insights for those clients. But the power of partnering with Cox is that we have built this embedded CDP that underlies every single thing that we do, all of the marketing, all of the advertising, the consumer experiences on websites. And if you've noticed over the last couple of years, we've been really deliberate about starting to tie the pieces of our products and our capabilities into syndication tools. So things like KBB My Wallet. It's your wallet. You carry it in your back pocket everywhere you go. But you're going to see more and more of that being embedded, say, on OEM sites, behind user authenticated lender and bank experiences. And so as you think about all of those entry points and touch points that a consumer enters that data, and not only do we have the most in first, second, and third party data, this massive identity graph and data set that connects all of your devices and to you, and then yours and Bridget's devices to your household. And so, we see all of those pieces together, and that is really expensive, not just to build, but to maintain.
Of course.
And, I did a panel a couple of weeks ago with the Rorman Group, with Ryan and Jeremy Nowling, and, and they were given some incredible stats around, like, you get all of that data stood up, and it's accurate, and after you dedupe it, it's amazing. 50 or 60% of it might be good, and then a handful of months later, you got to keep doing it again. And that's kind of the power of Cox, that we have all of these partnerships that I'm sure Susan would love to tell us more about, and she will, but where that data is updating in real time, literally every handful of seconds, where we're shifting these consumers from one segment to the next to make sure that messaging is as relevant as it can be to meet the consumer's needs and to keep them connected to you.
Yeah, no question about it. Do you want to jump in on that, Susan?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, sometimes a standalone CDP is positioned as the ultimate solution to, deliver on all your marketing needs. But in reality, a full CDP you're often adding it as a separate thing to your tech stack. And what that means is an extra system to log into and to manage. And also, it might not be deeply embedded in your CRM solution that you're using every day to talk to that consumer. And so you could miss out on some real-time compliance issues. And also the time between systems when that data is going from here to there and making sure, like Jade said, how do you keep everything up to date in real time? The more systems you have, the harder it is to do that. And so knowing that ours is already embedded, the real-time insights are right there every time in your CRM for your dealership to use. The other thing to think about is, the CDP, like Jade said, is only as good as the data that you put into it. So some standalone CDPs will have broader data integrations, but ours has the exclusive data that you can only get through Cox, which is really deep, granular shopping behavior to help you better predict where your consumer is and what message they need to hear right now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Cox is always skating to where the puck is going, right? So, and I know you guys are always a step ahead, as I said, in the technology and such. Where you are now, and then where you've got plans to go. Talk to us about that with the CDP. What's next?
Yeah. So first I'll say, we've already been here for a really long time. Pash calls us the grandfather of CDPs.
Yeah.
And we've been asked a lot over the last handful of years, why didn't you build a CDP product? Do you sell a CDP? It's like, actually, everything we have is built on this CDP that saves our clients a tremendous amount of money because they don't have to go out and invest. And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
And not to say that the standalone solutions aren't okay, but they have to have the data layer and the two-way integrations. And so that really is like the goodness of the investment that Cox makes, not only in consumer research, but in partnering with every big data provider and registration provider and OEM and all of these data points that we have coming in. And so it sounds overwhelming, but and it is. It's hard to get your mind around.
It would be especially for a smaller dealer. The average dealer, I think, has 2.5 dealerships.
Yes.
So when you talk to the average dealer, they're like, okay, we're not going to go out and build our own. We don't want to be a technology company.
And by the time you did, it would be outdated.
Yeah.
That data would be done, and the newest technology and the newest AI that sits on top of it that knows how to make it work with all of your other stuff. Just having that data sitting out there alone is irrelevant if you don't have the service layers that will push it to drive your consumer experience and the efficiencies in your stores.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's the path we're on. We are going to keep investing in, it said the sheer volume, 5.1 trillion vehicle insights a year.
Wow.
We are just right on the cusp approaching 3 billion consumer insights, 80 million leads. I mean, it's just, it's incredible.
And in real time.
As life events happen, as consumers change what they're looking for, we know it updates, and you don't waste a penny speaking to a consumer with a message that isn't relevant to where they are in the process right now.
That's right. How many times have we gotten from dealerships? I know I continually get from past dealerships or dealer cars
that you
I've
sold 2 years ago.
Right.
And you think,
it's time for your checkup.
You'll never get that from marketing powered by Cox Automotive.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's incredible.
We probably know what you're going to buy before you know.
See, I think you do. Susan, did you want to add anything to that in terms of what's next for Cox Automotive? Because I know that's something that you're diligently working on as well.
Yeah, we have always known how important it is to reach the right consumer at the right time with the right message. No more flyers for things that you got 2 years ago that you sold already. How do we make your connection with the consumer be relevant and important and on time? And so, we're going to continue to invest in this area to help make dealers as effective and efficient as possible in meeting their consumer and creating personalized experiences. So one of the things that I love about Cox is our close connection with the dealers. We don't sit in some room by ourselves and come up with this grand idea and go build it and then say, ta-da, here it is, come by. We work really closely with dealers and do many on-site visits to make sure with our innovations that we're solving real world problems. And so we're going to continue to invest. We're going to continue to learn from real experiences at dealerships, what we need to do to help our dealers be better to serve their consumers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as we wrap up this incredible segment, and I appreciate all of your time that you both have given us here at CBT News to cover this important issue of CDPs, because dealers are kind of, sometimes their eyes get, glazed over and they're like, oh my gosh, well, which way do we go here? Yeah. But talk to us, what are the biggest in terms of the action plan or the action advice, I would say, on CDPs for those watching, for those dealers out there that are right now maybe taking notes and saying, okay, I got to call these two and really get the DL here. But what's your advice for them?
Yeah, I would say the big takeaway is partner with the right partner. Mm-hmm. That has the most data, the biggest reach, and can make every dollar that you have go further. This is all about efficiency. And as we mentioned at the beginning, this may have been a differentiator and may still be a differentiator for those that are really serving the consumer with those custom experiences and custom messages. But there's going to be a time very soon. In fact, one of the big industry influencers 2 weeks ago on stage with me, he said, this is the year that everybody who has looked elsewhere at a bright and shiny object looks back and comes back to Cox Automotive, because the power of the data that we have is untouched, and it's about efficiency for the dealer, making every dollar and every minute go further for your staff. And my goodness, how often do we get to do that and it really be a win-win for the dealership, the consumer, the manufacturer, win-win for everybody?
Yeah, there's no question, and there's a comfortability factor there and a confidence factor that dealers have with the Cox Automotive brand and the family of dealerships that you guys have, for sure. And then how about you, Susan? What advice do you have, and what are your final thoughts here as we wrap up the segment for dealers that are listening?
Yeah, I have two big things. Number one, when you're looking at CDPs, the CDP is only as good as the data you put in it. So like Jade mentioned, make sure you are using a CDP that has access to very rich, granular behavioral data so it can really power your insights. The second thing is, it's not just good enough to have the data and have the insights. How can you leverage those in real time, embedded in things that you already do without creating new processes? So make sure you have the best data and that you can use it within your current processes as easily as possible.
Yep, fantastic. CDPs, every dealer out there wants to either learn more about it. Obviously, they've got to go down this road. I appreciate all of the time that you have both given me today. So Jade Terreberry, Senior Director of Strategic Development at Auto Trader, and Kelly Blue Book with Cox Automotive, and of course Susan Blue, first time now at CBT News. Thank you so much for taking the time. You did great, by the way. Vice President of Operations for Dealer Services and Solutions at Cox Automotive. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me. I know that our dealer viewing audience will get so much out of today's discussion. So thank you.
Thanks for having us, Jim, as always.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.